Talking of Rishi, I mean, this horrendous story about the XL bully dogs. You'll have seen that video Rishi Sunak did yesterday saying he's going to outlaw these dogs. It comes after this poor guy in Staffordshire. I think it was Thursday, wasn't it? But his death was announced yesterday, possibly linked to these XL bullies. It's not clear if
Ian Price, 52. The sixth person to die in a dog attack in England this year.
What a horrific way to die as well. I mean,
but he was protecting his mother, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. The dogs were going near his mother's house, weren't they? It's not clear with this legislation how it will be brought in. There was a caller yesterday on talkTV to Vanessa just saying, you know, he's had one of these dogs for a couple of years. Is he going to have to get rid of it? He was in tears. So, as with lots of legislation, it really isn't clear what it means. If you've got one of these dogs at the moment, and lots of owners of them say, you know, they're just puppies, or they're usually calm. There'll be lots of people saying
until they rip your arm off.
Well, this is it.
The problem is, you have an animal, however calm it is and nice, that has the potential to kill someone, whether it's an XL bully or an Alsatian or a Doberman, and you never know, they're pack animals, when something's going to go wrong. I saw my neighbour attacked by his 2 Alsatians that he'd had for 10 years. He was an army dog handler. He had to be rescued out of his house before the dogs were destroyed. The problem we have here is that people are very emotive about their animals, and I understand that, but they're saying, oh, it's not the dogs, it's the owners. Well, in the States, they say it's not the gun, it's the people, but still thousands of people die, and I'm afraid it's actually easier to legislate for dogs than it is for guns.
Interesting with these dogs, the XL bullies are believed to be responsible for 70% of dog-related deaths in Britain. It also found that half of all American XL bully dogs are descendants of one killer inbred dog called Kimbo, producing dozens of unstable and violent animals. These have been bred for their fighting characteristics, haven't they?
They have, David, but from your very stat, that means that 30% of deaths are not an XL bully. They're a dog, another dog. We need something to control dogs. Maybe we license the owners and there are draconian fines if, you know, they're not doing the things that they need to do.
Why don't we license? Should we license dog owners?
There used to be dog licences, didn't there? I think they still do it in Northern Ireland. I don't know.
Why don't we?
Well, exactly. But politics students will always talk about the Dangerous Dogs Act in the early 90s, wasn't it, John Major? It's always, it was brought in really quickly.
It was a bad piece of legislation.
Yeah, it's always held up as some of the worst legislation. It was done, because of the headlines, a bit like this is, some people will say. The nuts and bolts of it are really, really complicated. What do you do if you've got one of these dogs at the moment?
Well, also, how do you classify some of these dogs? Because that's another issue. Yeah. And also, if you outlaw this one, what about one that's almost like it, but not quite like it?
Exactly. So this is why we need something else. And I know that I caused a lot of upset this week by suggesting that dogs get muzzled or are always on the leash.
Do you want to just explain your policy, just to see what the reaction is?
I put out in the week that all dogs should be muzzled outside, and that went down like I can't tell you.
So if a dog is outside being walked by their owner, you want them muzzled?
Well, that's what I suggested.
Or even like a Labradoodle in a handbag or something.
Labradoodles can kill you. Yeah. Labradoodles can be quite big, actually.
What, by licking you to death?
Well, a Labradoodle. It's a big dog.
All right.
It's a gun
dog. I'm listening.
So then I said, OK, I'm listening to you. I've upset you. What if we have this, that dogs are on a leash all of the time, and then if they're off, they're muzzled? Oh, my God. I mean, the reaction I found really, really interesting. I'm a pet lover. I have pets. But I wish people would get as exercised about the 1.5 million children in slavery as we sit here in this studio and speak, because I care more about them than I do our pets, I'm afraid. I care more about humans than I do about pets, and I love pets. And I wish that we would actually get so exercised about these kind of things.
Interesting. So many messages coming in already. I'm so sick, says Zoe in Cheltenham, of the animal behaviourists. They don't care about people, they only care about making money from bad dogs and defending them. So that's very much on point. But politically, this would be a very difficult thing to pull off, wouldn't it? If you said all dogs have to be muzzled at all times. I mean, maybe a licensing thing is a better way, where everyone is chipped, you know exactly whose dog is what, and so on.
And also, but the courts would have to get involved with this in terms of, as you say, exactly what breed are they? It would be really, really complicated.
I'm also quite upset that Rishi can bring a bit of legislation like this as quickly as he can, but he can't publish the sex education guide for children after 18 months.
No, I know, because there's a lot of controversy still about that. And
there's a lot of controversy about this.
Well, indeed, no, I meant, so head teachers saying, help, we need some help, we need some guidance on this trans stuff, which you promised us and you still haven't delivered. No, I agree. Let's move on to the Times now, shall we? Yes. This is page 18.
Goodness, yeah.
I suppose we expected this. Tell us the story.
Yes, this came through sort of yesterday afternoon, didn't it? Lucy Letby obviously was convicted around about a month ago. She's going to challenge her convictions for murdering 7 babies and attempted to kill another 6. Yeah, we expected this. She has lodged this permission to appeal. We don't know whether she'll be given that permission. Also, the decision's going to be made in a couple of weeks' time about whether they'll retrial on some of these counts that the jury couldn't decide on the attempted murders. Obviously, you know...
I mean, she will get permission to appeal, won't she?
Well, presumably, but it's,
Will
you know...
she?
Well...
I think she has to have the right to appeal. I really do.
And then the process from there, what happens next?
Well, it would just go to the High Court. I mean... This is what gets prisoners through.
And do people have to give evidence all over again?
No, I mean, it would just be a decision made by the sort of High Court judges. But
So
I
it's
mean,
not another 10 months of the same thing?
No. I mean, this is how prisoners get through life in prison, by thinking, oh, I'm going to appeal. But yeah, it's just another difficult day for those families. Obviously, they didn't get to see her during the sentencing process. And, you know, she's sitting there in her cell. I mean, I saw her give evidence when she was up in court in Manchester. I mean, just sort of swaggering, really. You don't really get that from the mugshot you see of her.
No,
she was just sort of so kind of haughty.
But she wasn't there at the sentencing either.
No.
I think that is appalling, and I think
Yes,
she should have been there. She should have been made to be there.
Yes,
You don't get any argument from me. But I think it was... I mean, you saw some of that case. I think it was the prosecution who said to her, the only time you've cried in this trial is when it's been about you.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and those friends who we've seen on the TV, I wonder what they're thinking now. Lots of their interviews were done before the verdict. I wonder if they're still sort of standing by her at the moment.
And also for the families, here we go. They thought they had some sense of closure, and now, of course, it's all reopened again, and it must be horrendous.
Although I did hear a parent on a different case in the week say that he said it to you, actually, David, you never get closure when it's an avoidable death.
No, I'm sure. Wait, no, you never get closure. You learn to live with it, don't you? I think, and they are slightly different. Interestingly, hi, David and Renee. Great show. However, regarding dogs always wearing muzzles, humans can also kill you. Should everyone be handcuffed outside?
But you see, these arguments are ridiculous, aren't they? Because we don't keep humans as pets. Number one, we don't see humans running rampage down the high street and biting people. You know, this argument doesn't stack up. It's a silly argument. We are humans. It's our world. Dogs we're bringing into it as pets.
Ooh, it's our
Some
world.
humans wear muzzles as well if you go around sort of Vauxhall on a Saturday night.
OK, I think we'll swiftly move on.